8. It was nearly 3 decades later, at the most important occasion of Muhammad's life, that another Christian, an Arab, devout and well-versed in the scriptures, a man who had sought the Hafanite path, entered his life. This was in the year AD 610, when Muhammad, in the cave on Mount Hira, received his first spiritual experience and feared that he had gone mad or become, as he said, a poet. When the voice addressed him, he went to his wife in Mecca, trembling with fear, saying, "Woe is me, poet or possessed!" He had even thought of casting himself down from the high rocks to kill himself. Muhammad thought that people would never believe what he had to say, but she reminded him that he was of impeccable character and was known by the title of Al-Amin, the Truthful. She took her husband at once to her cousin, Waraka, son of Nofal, the devout Christian, for his advice. Waraka heard the account of the voice and what it had said, and cried out, "By the most holy God, if what thou hast said is true, this is the voice of the angel who appeared to Moses. Doubt me not, thy husband, Khadijah, is the prophet risen out of the tribe of the Quraysh." And he said to Muhammad, "Would that I were to be in the land of the living when thy kinsman sends thee into exile. Whoever brings what thou bringest falls victim to a most dastardly persecution." Shah Sardar Iqbal Ali, Muhammad the Prophet, London, Wright and Brown, 1st edition, 1932. The voice had said, preserved in the Quran, 74:1 and following, "O thou enwrapped in thy mantle, arise and warn." The interchange between Christians and Muslims, marked by the recognition of the overwhelming importance of the concept of submission to the will of God, has been continuously present for the past 14 centuries. One has only to read Evelyn Underhill, the authority on Christian mysticism, The Mystic Way, London 1913, to see how she constantly mentions Sufi psychology and its affinity in results with Christian devotion. Muhammad's words to Bahira at the age of 12 speak of his submission to God alone. Waraka's welcome of him was based upon his repetition of the injunction of the angel to obey God. The Ethiopian king's acceptance of the Muslims was rooted in their account of their efforts to submit, to surrender to those principles which had been preached to them. The dialogue, which we characterize in the title of these discussions as an attempt to dialogue, starts before the proclamation of Islam, continues through the infancy of Islam and the period of the supremacy of the Muslims in the East, is to be found in the mutual respect during the Crusades, in Muslim Spain, where so very many Christian scholars, including at least one pope, Gerbert, studied, and it survived the colonist period from which we have just emerged. This Crusades aspect is, of course, abundantly covered in many books and is a matter of common knowledge. When Usman bin Muqid, a Syrian Amir of the 12th century, visited Jerusalem during a period of truce in the Second Crusade, the Knights Templar, who had occupied the Masjid al-Aqsa, the farthest mosque near the Dome of the Rock, assigned to him a small chapel adjoining it for him to say his prayers in, and they strongly resented the interference on the part of a newly arrived crusader, who took this new departure in the direction of religious freedom in very bad part. Arnold Sir Thomas, quoting Guizot, Histoire de la civilisation en Europe, Paris, 1882. Gerbert, the Pope, was Sylvester II, AD 999. See Hitti, History of the Arabs. It is to be found both in the writings and speech of contemporary Muslim and Christian thinkers and of workers in these communities in the political, economic, scientific, and human fields. Contemporary Western thinkers do not disdain the possibility of understanding still to be developed from thinking, such as that of such great intellects and mystics as Al-Ghazali, of whom we shall have more to say later, in recognition of the common problems which face believers today. In the words of Professor W. Montgomery Watt of Edinburgh, the distinguished Arabist, in The Faith and Practice of Al-Ghazali, London, 1963, Islam is now wrestling with Western thought as it once wrestled with Greek philosophy, and is as much in need as it was then of revival of the religious sciences. Deep study of Al-Ghazali may suggest to Muslims steps to be taken if they are to deal successfully with the contemporary situation. Christians, too, now that the world is a cultural melting pot, must be prepared to learn from Islam, and are unlikely to find a more sympathetic guide than Al-Ghazali. Ghazali died in the year 1111. The allusion is to his book, The Ihya, Revival of Religious Sciences, which we quote below.